lot of our fans and followers on our social media channels have been asking us exactly what is happening in Lebanon at this time. Yeah. In our previous videos, I've explained to you that there's a ceasefire cul-de-sac, a ceasefire, to be or not to be scenario concerning Lebanon. And the simple summary is that while America and Israel insist that Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire, Pakistan and Iran insist that Lebanon is part of the ceasefire. Israel, they love their wars, especially if and when they are winning. So Israel descended on Lebanon, killed 254 very quickly, wounded over 1,000, and have continued to kill and wound, to unalive and wound and wound ever since then. The resistance in Lebanon took a little while, about 1.5 days, and then they also launched them, a, a, a retaliation, military activity against Israel. They have been doing missiles, they have been doing drones, they've been firing into northern Israel, they've been firing at Israeli military elements inside the southern Lebanon. In fact, there's a particular territory on the border of southern Lebanon with northern Israel called Bint Jbeil. Bint Jbeil is considered what is called the capital of the resistance. Bint Jbeil was a territory that the Israelis and the resistance in Lebanon clashed heavily over back then in 2006, while Israel and Lebanon had the last military clash, and the resistance back then won that particular military scuffle convincingly, and it was the battle for Bint Jbeil that the Israelis lost that convinced them to eventually eject out of Lebanese territory completely back in 2006. Now, the battle for Bint Jbeil has resumed yet again. And as we speak, that battle is currently raging. We will be able to update you with the results of the battle later today or maybe tomorrow. That's about that. Now, on the diplomatic scene, the Iranians are starting to come through on the promise that if Israel, supported by America, does not let Lebanon be in terms of complete ceasefire, into of all fire into Lebanese territory. That number one, it will not open the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has not opened the Strait of Hormuz still. Number two, it will not attend the ceasefire negotiation meetings in Islamabad in Pakistan. Iran has refused to, in fact, the Iranian diplomats, Foreign Minister Arakchi and Speaker of Parliament Ghalibaf of Iran have refused to take off from Iran into Pakistan as we speak. In fact, the Pakistanis, they have sent the fighter jets and they have sent the AWACS planes to Iran, ostensibly to escort them Foreign Minister Arakchi and the Speaker of Parliament Ghalibaf and their entourage to Islamabad in Pakistan, so that if the Israelis try to be funny and try to assassinate them mid-here, it will be difficult to impossible. Despite that, the Iranians have insisted that they are not even going to take off from the territory of Iran if Israel does not announce and they come through and actually, stay true to a true and proper ceasefire on Lebanese territory. The third thing that Iran promised and they have not done yet is that they will also now start to fire into Israeli territory in return, as a kind of revenge against them, against Israel's attacks on Lebanon. So that has not happened yet. That is that about that. Now, on the diplomatic front, especially at the American and Israeli levels, you must understand that the government of Lebanon is also trying to make some moves, ostensibly to ensure a ceasefire in Lebanon. However, they seem to be working, against the interest, so to say, of the resistance in Lebanon and the people of Lebanon. How? They are actually trying to do a deal with America and Israel, not just to ensure a ceasefire, but to ensure that the resistance of Lebanon is actually disarmed, not just in southern Lebanon, but also in the whole of Beirut, which is the capital city. Now, that seems to be working at cross purposes in a diametrically opposite direction to what the resistance in Lebanon is doing. There's an explanation there, and I'm going to explain to you so that you don't encounter some sort of intellectual confusion in that regard. You see, Lebanon is a country that essentially stands on four religious pillars. There is the Shia, There is the Sunni, there is the Christian, and there is the Druze community. The Shia community is roughly the biggest of the communities, it's around one third. And then after that, you have the Sunnis in number, then you have the Christians in number, and then you have the Druze in number. Now, the political culture, the extant political culture is that they always share the major positions. So usually what happens is that if one of the four religious groups takes the president, the other takes the the prime minister, another takes the foreign minister, and then another takes the head of a parliament and other important positions in that order. Currently, for example, the president of Lebanon, his name is General. He was the immediate past leader of the Lebanese military. His name is Michael Aoun. He is a Christian, so he is the current president of Lebanon. The current prime minister of Lebanon is a Sunni. The current foreign minister, if I remember very well, is a Sunni, while the current head of parliament, Nabi Berri, is a Shiite. Now, what is the reality on ground is that it is the Shiites that populate largely, not exclusively, but mostly the bulk of the resistance against Israel in Lebanon. They also happen to be the ones that largely populate southern Lebanon and southern Beirut, which is where Israel directs most of its fire, in terms of casualties, unaliving people, getting them wounded, kidnapping them, imprisoning them, and things like that. While largely the Christian community, the Sunni community, despite the fact that they are Muslim, and the Druze community are largely aligned there with Israel. So Israel is able to create that schism within Lebanese society, and they usually play upon that division to actually, prey upon collectively the psyche of the people, a kind of divide and conquer scenario. So while the Shiites that populate largely the resistance in Lebanon are fighting tooth and nail and are paying the price heavily to ensure that Lebanon is truly and truly free from Israeli incursion, capture, and the invasion, you will see the other, religious groups largely, even in the past and into the present, actually align with them, the Israeli, guys, to actually sabotage and to actually compromise the resistance activity against Israel that the Shiites who populate this, the as in the resistance largely are doing. So as we speak, the foreign minister of Lebanon is going to be on his way very soon to the United States of America to negotiate, so to say, with the Israelis and with the Americans. However, when he does that, he is going to be negotiating not just for a ceasefire, which is good for all of the entities, all of the religious groups in Lebanon, but he is also going to be negotiating for the resistance in Lebanon to be disarmed and to be demilitarized, which is very bad for not just them, the resistance folks and the Shiite folks, but also every other religious group in Lebanon, because an essentially demilitarized and disarmed population or country is one that can actually be ravaged, as the world power, so to say, as the ultra armed power, so to say, which is a very, very dangerous scenario for the corporate and the national, congruence of any, of such territories. So that is the challenge that is currently happening in Lebanon, and the different facets of the issue, so that you can understand and have a global view of what is happening in Lebanon, such that whatever happens thereafter, you can be able to theorize and you can be able to, situate, everything that is happening here concerning Lebanon intellectually and clearly. That is about a summary of what is of what is currently happening in Lebanon. I hope you understand my discussion at this time. Thank you very much. Again, don't forget to like, to share, to follow, to subscribe, toggle the notification button as usual, so that you keep getting our updates, and ask your questions and comments, please. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.